Okay, so today we're going to do these things, not particularly in this order. We're going to talk a little bit about finding books and clinical resources, which you probably know, but I like to remind people about them. And we're going to talk a lot more about finding research articles to support research, because I assume all of you are in this program because you're going to continue to do research, or at least most of you will. And so you do need to be able to do a higher level of searching than just finding an article or two if you're ever going to write a good lit review, or as you move forward in your careers to make sure nobody else has actually published on your topic. So I'm going to try to give you some of those advanced techniques, and we're going to talk about a couple of different databases today. And we are going to talk about getting full text. Now, some of you are not here at UAB, so I am going to try to tell you exactly more or less what you need to do in your own libraries, but there's nothing that I'm showing here today except for one database that you will not be able to do at either Auburn or USA. Okay, so in addition to the slides that I sent, we have a guide online that essentially has all the information I'm providing here, and it's right here. The link to it is there. The library webpage, whether at UAB or at USA or Auburn, is your window to the world of everything the university pays for you. If you don't go through your library webpage, and you really don't have to for PubMed, when it becomes time to use licensed resources or read licensed articles, you're going to get up against a paywall. They're going to ask you to pay. I'm going to show you that later. So that's why I want you to know where it is. I recommend, if you're going to be doing a lot of research or a lit review, bookmark it wherever you put things on your desktop in your bookmarks so you can get to it quickly. And I'm just going to show you a couple things about ours. The first is the Ask a Librarian box. Between 8 and 6, most people now don't bother with email, they just chat in, and we can take that chat, if it's complicated, offline through GoToMeeting. So that's how it works. So, and when we're closed, the email link will be on the page. It's just like chatting on your phone, I mean, but we can send links to you. We can set up a GoToMeeting if it's something more complicated and we need to look at your web screen. We do that a lot for EndNote questions, or we will answer you with whatever you need. And we check our email once between 8 and 10 every evening, and again at 8 in the morning. So if you work in the middle of the night or in the early morning, you will get an answer within certainly no later than 9 o'clock in the morning. So don't be afraid to use this, especially if you're struggling with something that we might be able to help. The next thing I'm going to show you is how to get full text articles, because I would say approximately 30 to 40% of the chats we receive are from people that are trying to get an article and can't figure out quite how to do it. And so if you don't have trouble with this, please excuse the few minutes we're taking with it. But often people start to look for articles. I know I do. Somebody says, hey, Lee, did you hear that great article in Cell or whatever, and give me an author name? What am I going to do? I'm going to Google it, or I'm going to open PubMed and look for it. And I might not start at the library homepage. So if you're working off campus and that happens and you're in PubMed, you just go up to that little blue link usually, and it's the publisher page, and you hope to get the article. But what you see instead is that it will cost you $59 for 24 hours.
It's well worth it, isn't it?
Yeah. So I'm telling you, and any member of any libraries anywhere that are in this room, stop there. You do not have to pay for articles. This is the easiest way to get it. And those of you at USA or Auburn, the process is the same. The screens will look different. So what I do from this page, and this is what you get from Google, by the way, is I simply copy the article title, open the library webpage, and paste the title into the PubMed search box on the home page. And now I have another link. At UAB, it's Article Linker. At the other universities, it'll be some other similar icon, and I'm going to click on that. So now I see Get Article, and I click on the article link, and I have an authentication box. What this does is it tells the publisher you're at UAB. It has a snippet of code on it, and then it knows not to charge you for the article. It doesn't see that code when you're online off campus. And so you put in Blazer ID and password, you go through the publisher page, here's your PDF. Okay, that takes approximately less than 30 seconds if you know what to do. Okay, so most people ask me then about what if it doesn't have a link to the article? And so at UAB, you're just going to scroll down to option 2, order through interlibrary loan, and click on request. The first time you use this, you're going to sign in with Blazer ID and password, and you're going to give them a little bit of information about yourself for your account. Then you go to request the article. The form's completely populated for you from PubMed, so you submit it, and we will get the article. We're trying for 2 to 3 business days, and so it will be coming to you. You will get a notification the PDF is there, and it is free. There are other ways to get to full text, so I want to make sure you all know what to do in order to get it that way, if that's your preference. How many use Google Scholar? Okay. So Google Scholar is a great database. A lot of people search in it, but it's very, very important that you set your settings and just follow this link to learn how to set the settings. EndNote will find full text for you as well, but you have to go into your preferences and put that snippet of code in, so it'll ask you to authenticate, and the instructions to do that are right here. Okay, and we have a resource here at UAB called Browsing. Do any of you use it or have you heard of it? Okay, this is a really nice phone app, and I don't think I'll take the time to show you it on my phone today, but afterwards, if anyone wants to see it, come forward. And basically what it allows you to do is to, we pay for it for you, so the full text is available, is to set little libraries of the most important journals in your field, or look up a journal by its name, and then you can click on that to get the TOC. So it's one way to stay really current. So if what you like to read is pediatrics, for example, because that's your area, you can be standing there waiting for the elevator and reading the TOC. Once you find an article, it's one click. No Blazer ID and 15-letter password, nothing. One click to the article. And so people that use it seem to really love it. This kind of shows you how to set it up, gives you links to what to do, and you just go to the App Store to get it. And this shows you then how this works. Now, most of us don't like to save the articles on our devices. You may not want to take up that space, so you can easily share it to EndNote, Zotero, Mendeley, make a PDF to send wherever you want, or to open it in Dropbox and Evernote. So it's very quick, and so that's another way to get to full text. Okay, this is just what Google Scholar, the instructions for that. And this is what it looks like. So Google Scholar users, you know that if there's no online PDF available to you, there's a blank in that right-hand column. When you choose us as a library, if we have it, you'll get that Find It link, and it'll open up to article linkers, so you can get the article directly. Okay, so where you actually look for information, the first and really important thing when you're starting a new topic is to figure out what you actually need. And one of the ways that we classify information has to do with background information or foreground information. So background information is general, in the clinical arena, is generally questions regarding a condition or a test, or that's fairly static over time. So it could be course, presentation, typical treatment protocols, anatomy, physiology, pathology, biostatistics, things like that. And for those, the best place to find them is not articles in PubMed, but online textbooks or clinical resources. So how many of you are in public health? Okay, quite a few of you. And how many are in clinical medicine? Most of the other half of you.
A few others, but that's
what? And a few others. Well, I'm thinking dentistry, nursing, veterinary. Those all would be in the same area of healthcare. Public health is a little bit different because your background questions are different, but they still are the ones that don't seem to change much over time. And so we have quite an extensive ebook collection now because we're getting almost all of our resources online, and a good print collection. You find them here in the library catalog and in our ebook list. At USA, all this is on the left-hand side of the Biomedical Library homepage. Under resources, same kind of stuff, and Auburn has it as well. I'm just not sure which library you all would use. So for us, all you have to do is search by title or author. And in some libraries, there are much more sophisticated catalogs than we have now, but they're very easy to use. And here, once you bring up an ebook, I just brought this slide here so that you could see you can read it in one click. You just click on View. Ignore everything else here, and you can read them online. The library ebooks are not like public library ebooks that let you download to your Kindle and keep for a while. Most of them are set up so that you can read them online. Many of the clinical ones allow you to download a whole chapter as a PDF. Many of the others, like you'd be more likely to see in public health, like on epidemiology or biostatistics or something, you really can't do more than 25 or 30 pages, so you have to plan to read them online. Okay, and then I put one in here. There's a link that you can look at it on your own. It's a little convoluted to get to it because it's still in licensing, but this is a brand new edition of probably one of the top cancer books. And you can look in it and see the level of detail that you get, which you're not going to get in another resource. And it's background information, so you're not going to easily glean it from a literature review. If anybody wants me to put this up after the presentation, I'm glad to do that. But I'm going to try to continue going through, and then if you have a question, I'll pull it up. Okay, for people in clinical, there are two resources that people tend to use here that are really up-to-date clinical summaries for background information. One of them is called Up to Date. How many of you have used that? Yeah, and it's not, you know, anybody that has a question about a disease, it can be very useful. And the other one is called Dynamed. And so I put these on here so that you would know about them. Dynamed is more basic, but if you have absolutely no real knowledge of a disease and you're going to be doing some research on it in any way, shape, or form, it's a really good way to start. And I've put links to videos that show you exactly how to get started on the bottom of this page. Okay, so now we're going to start talking about databases for searching the research literature. And on our homepage, we've highlighted with a search box the main ones people use here, and they would be PubMed, CINAHL for nursing and health professions, Scopus, which I'm going to talk about, Embase, that I'm going to talk about, and Google Scholar. And I'm not really going to talk about that because if you can search Google, you can search Google Scholar. So I'm going to start with PubMed. How many of you use PubMed? Hopefully 100% of you do. How many of you get great results every time you search? Yeah, we've got a couple good searchers in here, and you may snooze during part of this, but maybe there'll be something here you'll find interesting. How many of you end up finding a significant amount of scatter, like you've got to go through multiple, you've got too many references and you've got to go through lots of them to find what you want? How many find they don't get anything that they want? Okay, good. That's typically not a problem, but we've got a few. Okay, so what I'm going to do is use PubMed as an example and explain how it works, and also show you some advanced search techniques to add to your toolbox if you think that would be helpful. And the reason I'm going to go into detail with PubMed is that CINAHL, Embase, and PsycInfo, Chemical Abstracts, virtually all of those databases work like PubMed. So if you understand how it works, you would be able to do the similar things if you had to search one of those databases. So everybody knows this, so this is for review, but PubMed actually is up to 26 million citations. So if you're finding too much stuff with scatter, that's why. But it only takes input from 5,600 journals. And so that's just a small percentage of the journal literature that's out there. It's supposedly the best journals, but PubMed does not include everything. And that's why we're going to talk about Scopus, or you could use Google Scholar for the same reason if you just weren't getting enough or you wanted to be thorough. It is funded by the US government, but it's free for all and used worldwide. And all full text is stored on a server elsewhere. It's not in PubMed. That's why we have to use those buttons. When an article is submitted to PubMed, it is converted into a record that looks like this. And this is the only thing you're searching when you search the PubMed database. So you can see if that was all you were searching, how difficult it would be to get what you wanted. You'd have to be really, really specific. So what has been done in these types of databases is that in PubMed, it's actually still a human. In some cases, it's become a computer. Human being reads every article that goes in. And they say, this article on myocardial infarction is about this. And this article on heart attack is also about this. So I'm going to call that subject myocardial infarction, and I'm going to put every single article that's about it in the database with the tag for myocardial infarction. That way you can use either word and you'll see everything. Makes sense, right? Those words are called subject headings in almost every database. In PubMed, they're medical subject headings, or MESH. And you can see them on the bottom of every record. I'm not allowed to move out of the, but up here you can see. So this one was on ovarian cancer. So you can see all the different ways. I could have brought it up with ovarian neoplasms. I could have brought it up with adenocarcinoma, immunohistochemistry, et cetera, et cetera. If you're starting a new research project, this can be a great way, if you get a good article, to look at and start to make a list of vocabulary until you become expert enough in that area that you don't need it anymore. It's at the bottom of every record. So this is helpful, right? But the reason PubMed, and a lot of those other databases do not do this, is so easy to search and you can get really good results without even understanding it, is they have a process called term mapping. What that does is that the computer takes your keyword that you put in. So if I were to put in ovarian cancer, it would search ovarian cancer in a field as a keyword, but then it would also translate it to ovarian neoplasms, which is the MESH heading. And now I'm going to get ovarian neoplasms, cancers, tumors, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And everything will come up for me. So the first real tip for all of you is that if you can get the good medical or public health terminology to put in the search box, you may not have to go any further than that. PubMed may do what it needs for you to do if you're just doing a broad basic search. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is show you, and spend much less time on, these are just things for you. We're not going to go over them. This is what we talked about. When you look at it 6 months in the future, if you do, all these things will be here to remind you about what we said. Okay, I'm going to talk about 2 different databases. And just spend a quick time sort of approach to show you how they work and tell you why you might want to use them. Embase is the one that is only at UAB. Embase is a very expensive, comprehensive biomedical database that Elsevier provides. Ka-ching $signs. And it is a gold standard database for systematic reviews because it includes a lot of international literature, so you get a bit of a different slant than PubMed, which is primarily US literature. It also has about 3,000 journals that are not included in PubMed, so you get unique content. And Medline has journals that are not in Embase too, so both of them have unique content. In Elsevier's Embase, it includes Medline, so you could start there if you wanted to, but most people are going to start in PubMed, and I'm going to show you how to get that, if you want to complement your search, how to get that subset of unique articles out in a click so that you wouldn't have to look at all those Medline articles again. So it uses a controlled vocabulary, just like MESH. It's called MTree, but it's particularly designed for pharmacological research, a lot of drug methods and things like that if you're into drug delivery or drug development. And it's designed for medical devices. So this is probably the best place to find medical devices if that's something you're interested in. So we're going to just go online, and there's a link to the guide that'll show you how to do things. And then I put some slides in here because it's going to be a while maybe before you do it to show you some of the things we talked about. Okay, the last database I'm going to talk about is Scopus. And before I do that, I'm going to mention Google Scholar. How many of you said you were using it? There was a smattering of hands. When you leave academia, Scopus, or Web of Science, which is the Scopus competitor that you have at Auburn, those are probably the two most expensive databases that are purchased by academic institutions. Generally, a hospital, even a good teaching hospital, may not have it, and smaller institutions will not have them. Many of the things you can do in Scopus and Web of Science have been added to Google Scholar. So it's always good to know it's there, and you will be able to do some of these things. It's just that you won't be able to do a lot of the complicated searching and narrowing and filtering in Google Scholar. The other thing that's important to remember about Google Scholar that I like to remind people is that it is the only database that we're talking about here that has the full text of all the articles bubbled into the algorithm for the search results. What that means to you is that if you are looking for something that's likely to be in the methodology section of an article, but not in that tiny abstract, various things are like test instruments, particular types of genetic mice, anything like that, then Google Scholar sometimes is the best place to start. It's also a useful place to start sometimes with brand new substances that really nobody's exactly settled on a name, because sometimes somewhere in the bulk of the article they'll say also known as this, that, or the other kind of thing. So just in the back of your mind, remember that's where to start. And now we're going to talk about Scopus. And Scopus is, Scopus is a large database. It has 21,500 journals, far more than the 6,000 journals in PubMed or the 8,500 journals in Embase. And they cover all disciplines. Web of Science is about the same size. And so if you're going to do any kind of research that has to do with more than a strict medical focus, and in medicine, a lot of the things that you will be looking for having to do with health behavior, for example, some epidemiological studies and things like that might be reported in the social sciences databases, for example, or psychological databases. And so if you want a quick one searches all instead of going all over looking for them, Scopus can be a really good place to start. Like Embase, it also includes Medline records. Unlike Embase, it's harder to deduplicate them, but if you want to do that sometime, I will send you instructions because we have them on our guide, but it's not something you can just easily do. Okay, so the other really important thing about these two databases, and the thing that makes them so special, is that for every record, they have all the list of the references to the article. Because I'm sure all of you get a good article and you go, reference searching, and then you've got to copy and paste or type in and try to find that good reference. It's all linked, it's online, you can do it, links to article linker. It also gives you every article that has put the article you're interested in into its bibliography. Those are called forward citations. We'll talk about that a little bit more, but that also can be really, really, really helpful. So, what do you use it for? Interdisciplinary or international literature, and to see the reference lists and forward cites. You can rank your result sets by relevance or time cited, and this is one really good way to get into those early articles, the seminal articles in a field. However, it doesn't go back to the 50s, but that can be very useful. I'm going to show you how to do that. And it's called the vanity database because that's the way to see who's citing your work. You can put your name in, you can look your mentor up and see who's citing his work and how many citations the article, when you author an article, gets. You can set alerts to tell you every time you're cited, things like that. And so those are really much more for academia, but they're also kind of fun. If you publish, you probably want to know if somebody's citing you. This is what the record looks like, and unlike the other databases we talked about, Scopus searches only a record, but it has no controlled vocabulary. So because of that, you have to think carefully about synonyms. In the Scopus search, it takes care of plurals, it takes care of most variations due to British English spellings and some things like that, but it does not lump articles together. What they do to help you is, if you see in this box over here, they actually put major mesh terms and major entry terms in there. So if you happen to know that you were searching this in PubMed and the mesh term was this, you can throw that in your search term and then it'll bring up all of those. So it helps you, but it's very, very, very different because you have to think about things. The Scopus suggests, because keywords are in there, you use the language of your field and you're likely to get much better results. So as you know a topic better, it'll be much easier to search. Most people think it's really easy to use Scopus because you don't have to worry about that stuff. And then up here you can see all the documents that have taken this research forward. Sometimes there's something really interesting there. Maybe somebody contradicted the study. Maybe somebody's added to the study in a way you want to know. So these are things you can only get through Scopus and Google Scholar. So the rest of the PowerPoint slides simply show you how to set all the different kinds of alerts. Reminder, this is where you get help at Lister Hill Library.